Now.
On 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app.
O'Connor and Company.
It's 5:07. It's Wednesday morning on this 13th day of November. Thanks for tuning in here to O'Connor and Company. Coming up at 6:05, Will Held, Consumer Research. Is DEI dead? Like across the board now, not just in the government, but in corporations as well. We'll talk to him because Will Held was the first person to raise the issue of DEI in the boardroom. Also, 6:35, victory lap here from Sheriff Chuck Jenkins, completely exonerated now from those bogus gun charges they brought up against him. Total vindication. We'll talk to the good sheriff of Frederick County. 7:05, Betsy DeVos, former education secretary. What does the world look like without a Department of Education? She'll give us a look. 7:35, Senator Ron Johnson, sort of in the center of the battle over the majority leadership votes that are supposed to happen this morning, or will they? Maybe Senator Ron Johnson himself will single-handedly delay that vote. We'll get that breaking news from the senator at 7:35. And then at 8:05, a lot of people talking about this guy, Tom Homan, the brand new border czar. I love that Trump named him border czar, Julie Gunlock. Of course, this is my first time to chime in on it since I had a couple of days off there. Good morning, Julie.
Good morning.
Thank you for carrying the torch here while I was gone. And a huge thanks to Hans von Spakovsky for filling in. You know, I was supposed to be back yesterday, as you know.
I do know.
We try not to announce when I'm gone and when I'm back because, you know, stuff like yesterday happens. I was supposed to have landed 8 p.m. Monday night, but my friends, and they are my friends over at American Airlines, they decided while I was on the ground in Las Vegas, I was there for a little weekend reunion that I do every year with my brothers in the Sin City. I was flying back at noon on Monday, and my dear, dear friends at American Airlines, God bless those people, they ushered me off the plane along with all the other passengers because a computer was malfunctioning, and they wanted to keep us safe. So we did. We were safe. And then my flight that was supposed to leave at noon was delayed until 11 p.m. What was going to be a noon to 8 p.m. flight to Washington, D.C., so that I could be here lively and spry and all energized for my Tuesday morning show, ended up being a red-eye overnight after sitting in the Las Vegas airport for 12 hours.
Oh, my gosh.
Then had a red-eye, and I landed halfway through the show yesterday, and so that was not a good thing. But again, my deepest gratitude to the good people at American Airlines for keeping us safe and sound. We were all so joyful and grateful.
What did you do for 12 hours in the airport?
It took every ounce of discipline not to play slot machines or video poker. I am so amazed. I just,
no, but seriously, did you just sit there and then walk around every once in a while?
I read scripture and prayed.
Oh,
I listened to some podcasts. I listened to you and Hans, and I kept.
Now Meredith was home; she wasn't with you.
Correct. I was all by myself. Because my brothers all live in different places, so we all sort of went our separate ways. And it was the only bad luck I had in Vegas, though. I had a very good weekend.
Good,
Thank you very much.
Good.
Yes, that's why it took every ounce of discipline to keep all that cash in my pocket and not pump it into the machines. But we're back, baby. We're back, and I do love. That Tom Homan's been named border czar.
Oh, I know.
Because it's just great because that's Kamala's title. It's like, you want to see what a border czar does? I'll show you what a border czar does. Let's get right to it. I can't wait. And so he's going to be joining us at 8:05. You know, here's the Trump effect. Here's the Tom Homan effect, if I could. Can we call it the Tom Homan effect specifically on the border? Because this was The View yesterday. Sarah Haynes, who, let's face it, not the brightest bulb on that Christmas tree over there at The View. But Sarah Haynes, talking, of course, to Sonny Hostin, who's acting like, at least Sonny has maintained this is the end of democracy, this is the end of our country, apocalypse. I do love all the people who warned us this was the end of democracy, who then woke up a week later and said, oh, we'll be fine. I want to have tea with Melania. Everything's going to be great. It's like, excuse me, you just said we were going to burn this place down, and now you want to have tea? And so at least Sonny Hostin is maintaining that position. Sarah Haynes pushing back on her colleagues there at The View who were saying, this is outrageous. Anna Navarro, of course. You're going to send abuela and abuelo back to concentration camps, and you're going to deport all of these abuelos who have been here. Sarah Haynes had something to say.
Well, I think that the weaponizing of immigrants or equating immigrants to criminals was feeding off people's fears because the statistics don't support that. But
except for the immigrants illegally here who are, in fact, criminals. There is that.
Yeah.
The statistics don't bear it out unless you actually look at the criminal behavior of those illegal immigrants who are here criminally, who were then continuing to break the law. But that's okay, Sarah. She has to say that to stay at the table there.
Right.
There's a problem at the border, and there's been a problem for decades and decades, and every administration has come through here, and no one has fixed it. It ballooned in this last administration, and that's what the people voted on, a referendum on that. Because right now, one thing I've never understood, and I actually think we'll wait to see how this looks, but either we have laws at the border or we don't. We're asking people to get in line to come into this country while incentivizing people not waiting in the line. Like we've seen things where sanctuary cities like California and Illinois, it's kind of like get to the country, like kick the can. If you get to base, though, you're going to be fine. You also have Tim Walz signed into legislation in Minnesota that allowed undocumented immigrants to receive free in-state tuition. All of these are lovely in spirit, but there are people that can't pay for food for their own families. In New York, they were giving $500 meal cards, and obviously we want to help someone for the humane interests, but there's a lifeboat here. And I think the rage about the border was also people here that are maybe insecure, homeless at times, making ends meet, and they don't have they can't send their kid to college. That's the outrage of what I saw the voters say.
Oh, boy, who fed her a red pill with her multivitamin?
Exactly.
So that's what I would call the Tom Homan effect. Tom Homan, border czar, will be joining us at 8:35 to talk about, what his plans are and to clear up some of the lies you've heard about the deportations and about mass deportation. I love the word mass deportation. It doesn't take mass deportation. You deport the first, 500,000, say, the ones we know who are here with criminal records, deport them. Right. And then let all of the other people who are here know that they're not going to get the meal cards. They're not going to get housing. They're not going to get education. They're not going to get health care. They're not going to get cell phones. They're not going to be able to get jobs because, oh, by the way, while we're doing this, we're going to start prosecuting the corporations who are hiring people under the table to avoid taxes and insurance and all the other benefits that you would have to pay to hire a naturalized citizen or a green card holder. You start doing that, and suddenly all the rest are going to say, well, what the hell are we doing here?
Right.
Let's go home. There's nothing here for. She just said it's a lifeboat. Yeah, that lifeboat has turned into a cruise ship, Sarah. That's the problem.
I mean, she mentioned, Waltz allowing free tuition for these people.
Meanwhile, why didn't that come up during the campaign, by the way?
Exactly. And I mean, you think about the benefits that people are getting: free housing, free food, free cell phones. It is astonishing. Yeah. I mean, my husband and I have joked that we want to fly down to Mexico and then walk across the border to get some of this free stuff. I mean, and this is at a time where Americans are struggling with inflation.
That's right.
We really are struggling in this country. And
I know.
Meanwhile, these illegal aliens, but, according to Anna Navarro, she's the abuelas.
Yes.
Abuelas. Like, I love this idea. Like, she suggests these people have been here for generations, right? No, they just came.
Exactly.
Just deport those guys.
Let's start with the people who came, in
who've
the last
been here
3
for
years.
5 minutes.
That's
yes.
Right. But I'm an abuelo.
Abuelo.
All right. I understand that you're facing 3 young teenage boys and the college tuition that you have to pay for them. I'm sure that you and Darren look at each other and say, if only we had given birth to illegal immigrants. Why? Why was God so mean to us? All right. Now, there's a lot of issues that need to be dealt with here. Tom Homan, as I said, is going to join us to talk about the border. There are other security issues and also national security issues. But our brand new Secretary of Defense, Brian Kilmeade, is going to fix those problems. And we're going to... What is it? Did I get that wrong? Is it not?
I think so.
Oh, it's the week. Oh, that's right. It's Pete Hegseth. Well, all I heard was a Fox and Friends host got named Secretary of Defense, and Well, apparently he's got more to his resume than that Pete Hegseth does. And yes, everyone's talking about this appointment, and we'll talk about it next. First, though, it's 5:15.
WMAL.
Making sense of the news.
Live
From the Home Paramount Pest Control Studios.
Home Paramount, the leader in pest control since 1939.
Julie Gunlock, we've got a pattern of behavior developing here with the appointments to the new Trump cabinet. For the most part, names are sort of leaked, and then 24 hours, a official statement comes out from Donald Trump that says, yes, I've nominated this person. Yesterday, Kristi Noem, as Secretary of Homeland Security, was confirmed by Donald Trump a day after it had been floated. Elise Stefanik, ditto. Ambassador to the United Nations, Stephen Miller, ditto. Deputy Chief of Staff. These have all now, and Mike Waltz as National Security Advisor, Congressman Mike Waltz, friend of this program. A lot of friends of this program, by the way, which is very fun to see. So here's what's weird to me, and we'll get to Pete Hegseth in a moment, because there's two outliers. The first is Pete Hegseth, Army veteran of 20 years, combat veteran of Iraq and Afghanistan, as well as a stint at Gitmo. And yes, most recently in the last several years, he has been a professional broadcaster on Fox News, but he's focused on military and veterans issues. And he's been able to transcend that and do some, morning show. I would hate that hosting a morning show would preclude you from being experienced, and your entire life behind you has been thrown out the window,
Larry,
Julie.
just tell us what you're hoping
Yeah,
for.
exactly. I got a couple
Gonna
of
be
things.
the press secretary? Gonna be the press
he's
secretary?
unqualified. He's a morning show host. Please, morning show hosts are qualified for any damn job. Okay. No, but seriously, imagine, Julie, you've been doing this for 3 years now. Happy anniversary! And imagine. You have 20 years of experience in Washington, D.C., working with various organizations, politicians on Capitol Hill. But if you got appointed to something in this White House, and you better tell me if you are, imagine them saying, well, Julie Gunlock's just a morning radio host.
I know.
It's ridiculous, like throwing out the 20 years of experience you had before you came here.
Which is why you got the job.
That's right. Of course it is. And so... So the two outliers so far of this pattern of behavior, of the leak, and then 24 hours later we get the official announcement, is Pete Hegseth. His name was not leaked. And the other outlier is the opposite. A name was leaked 2.5 days ago now. Senator Marco Rubio as Secretary of State.
Yeah,
and we
no confirmation.
still have no confirmation on that.
No.
And
No, we don't.
I find it very strange. And frankly,
too.
I still hold out hope that Rick Grinnell, Ambassador Rick
Me
Grinnell,
too.
gets that job. I think he would be fantastic. And, everyone's saying Trump's picking, loyal. There's no one more loyal than Rick Grinnell.
No one more loyal than Rick Grinnell.
Trump nominating Rick Grinnell for Secretary of State means that he doesn't have to look, over his shoulder ever. And I don't know Secretary Rubio. Senator Rubio. I do know Ambassador Grinnell. I just don't think that the loyalty factor is necessarily as strong with Rubio as it has been demonstrated with Rick Grinnell.
I 100% agree with you, and I will also say, Rick Grinnell, what he did in Germany, what he did as ambassador to Germany, was astonishing. I mean, he
changed the game in Europe. He changed the game completely in Europe.
Absolutely.
Yep.
And he was a strong advocate for the United States when it came to Russia, which is going to, obviously be a big issue in this administration. So I'm also sad that so far we haven't heard anything for Kash Patel. Talk about loyalty.
Yeah.
I'm
guessing Kash Patel gets Director of National Intelligence, DNI.
Possibly.
I could be wrong, but that's my hunch. Or he'll be Deputy National Security Advisor. Grinnell could also fill either of those slots. In fact, Grinnell was the acting Director of National Intelligence before John Ratcliffe became the Director. Ratcliffe now, of course, is the CIA Director.
Yeah.
There's a lot of positions still. And they could also – listen, and here's the other thing, because if there's any – first of all, Grinnell can get confirmed with flying colors in the Senate. I mean, you'll have Democrats voting for him as well because he'd be a historic nomination.
Sure.
Maybe they're concerned Patel can't get confirmed. I don't know.
Possibly.
But there's a lot of czar positions that can be filled.
Yes.
And Kash could be, the czar, the intelligence community czar, and just basically clean up all of it.
Right, which is why people are excited about this position for Homan, because, he's going to be in the White House as opposed to over at DHS doing his own thing. This is directly working with the president, and that's more powerful than being a cabinet position.
I could make the argument that both of those people, Grinnell and Patel, could be czars of a certain type working in the White House. Because here's the thing. When you're director of CIA, part of your job has to be to run the CIA.
Right.
That's a full-time job.
Right.
You put somebody in a position to say, okay, I don't want you to run the CIA. I want you to fix the CIA.
Yeah.
And you will work with the director, but you will answer directly to me, and you will go in, and your only job is to fix the problems at the CIA and the FBI and military intelligence and over. That could be a very good and powerful position. You could do the same thing at state. I don't know. But those are two names that we're still waiting to fill. But we got to talk about Hegseth. We got to talk about Pete Hegseth and what kind of Secretary of Defense he would be, and how this is a surprising decision, controversial decision, and whether he will be an effective Secretary of Defense, and whether he can get confirmed as well. We've got all of those questions about Pete Hegseth, a morning show host, and we'll get all to it coming up in a moment. First, though, it's 5:23.
Now.
On 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app.
O'Connor and Company.
It's 5:36, and we continue plowing through this very busy Wednesday morning as we cover the aftermath of the election and the very efficient and speedy transition team naming key positions to the Trump 2.0 White House. We'll get to all of it coming up. Also at 6:05, Will Hild, Consumer Research. Is DEI dead in the water now officially after this election? 6:35, Sheriff Chuck Jenkins completely exonerated from the bogus charges against him. 7:05, Betsy DeVos, former Education Secretary, talk about what life will be like without a Department of Education. 7:35, Senator Ron Johnson, he's a key player in the battle for leadership in the Senate. And he'll give us the latest coming up then at 7:35. And then at 8:05, Tom Homan, the new border czar. Boy, that's a busy morning. Julie Gunlock, thanks for getting everything done while I was gone here, carrying the torch and doing things and, keeping.
It was fun, but boy, you were missed.
I'll think. I missed being here. And you kept Hans von Spakovsky fed and watered, and that's all very important, too.
He was great.
All right, so Pete Hegseth is your new Secretary of Defense elect. He'll need to be confirmed, of course. And many people have very strong feelings about this. Now, I don't know enough about the military to know whether Pete Hegseth will be a good Secretary of Defense. I know that he wasn't one of the short list names that we were all bandying about. People thought it would be a Tom Cotton, who took himself out of the running, as you know, maybe a Mike Pompeo. And President Trump a few days ago said neither Pompeo nor Nikki Haley will have anything to do with the new administration, although he wishes them the best. Many people thought it would be Mike Waltz, the congressman of Florida, who's now been officially named the National Security Advisor. So because he wasn't really discussed going in, people were very surprised about this. I have many opinions about it. I do. But I also don't consider myself an expert, and I defer to people who have more of a military background to sort of chime in. And people with a military background, they are also of mixed opinions about it. And I'll share those with you in a moment. Here's one thing I do know. The announcement of Pete Hegseth, an Army veteran of 20 years with 2 Bronze Stars, combat tours in Iraq and Afghanistan, and now a media career where he has focused more than half of his career on the plight of veterans coming from the war on terror, and saying that this current Pentagon leadership across both administrations, Trump and Biden, were not really focusing on the needs of the troops and the vets. Pete Hegseth being named as Secretary of Defense is making all the right people insane. That I know for sure. Here's Exhibit A.
The former and future president is moving quickly to fill the clown car and round out his cabinet before he changes his mind and fires them all. Moments ago, Trump announced that he has selected Fox Weekend morning show host, you can't make this up, Pete Hegseth, to serve as Secretary of Defense, because why not?
Yeah, if I'm Joy Reid, if I'm Joy Reid and I have makeup like she wears and hair like she has, I will refrain from any references to clowns, if possible, because it's just too easy. But this is a good example. The people on the left are going nuts, and they're all writing it off in the same way. Jim Acosta did the same thing. Jim Acosta proving that he's making his cabinet selections while watching television. Donald Trump names Fox and Friends weekend host Pete Hegseth. Anybody who reduces Pete Hegseth's life and career to Fox and Friends weekend host, they are being duplicitous, they are being mean-spirited, and they are purposely trying to deceive whoever is listening or reading their opinion. Because you can say a lot about the man, but I don't think you can reduce his entire life and experience to his role on Fox News Channel.
Yeah, he has been also a tireless advocate for veterans.
Yes.
He has, always, though he is on Fox News and he hosts the weekend program, the military is his main focus, even on that show.
Yep.
And they're going to make fun of nearly every nominee coming out of this new
Absolutely, of
administration.
Course they will.
It's that smug attitude, which is why we have Trump now. So keep it up.
Right.
Keep it up, Joy Reid.
So, as I said, I know a lot of people in the military, current active duty or retired in the military, and they are split down the middle on this. Well, I shouldn't say that. They're of three mindsets. At least the people who were burning up my phone last night with text messages. 1/3 of them think this is a great thing, and they love it because they want someone from as far outside the military as you can get with military experience. And that's a hard thing to find, right? There aren't a lot of people who have great experience in the military with bona fide credentials who then actually don't become part of the machine, right? Mm-hmm. And they love the fact that he did not enrich himself immediately afterwards by working for the military industry. Mm-hmm. Right? Not that that's a precursor and precludes you, but it does mean that there are no strings attached to him going in, right? They like the fact that he didn't make his money through the industrial military industry. They like the fact that he is not dazzled by flag officers and stars on the shoulders, and he can bring it, because it's like, well, he only retired as a mid-level officer. They love the fact that he retired as a mid-level officer because as soon as you reach a certain level of command, well, you're dazzled by the stars and you become part of the beast, according to them. That's them telling me. All right. So there's one mindset. There's another mindset who are absolutely outraged. He has no national security experience. He is not qualified for that. These are military people saying that. But I will tell you this. Every single one of those people who burned up my phone last night saying that to me, they're all people who are sort of, and I love them and I respect them, but they're sort of in the game. They're people who have been working in the military industry. They're DC military retirees who are now drawing paychecks from your Raytheons or your Booz Allens, and they're outraged by Hegseth coming in here. And then there's the third group of people who are like, yeah, it's out of the box. It's not someone I would have wanted or chosen, but I'll keep an open mind. Let's see what he's got to say. Let's see what he does, because he's never done anything to offend me in the past, and he seems to be very pro-military. So,
look, Larry, I know you were hoping for Kurt Schlichter to be.
All right, he may have been one of the people I just mentioned, but I won't say what category he's in.
Although I really am hoping they put Kurt in charge of firing everyone, because that would be very fun to hear about.
Well, it's funny you should say that. There was another announcement yesterday about the Pentagon that we'll get to in a moment that Kurt Schlichter would be perfect for. In fact, I'm openly advocating for it, a position for Kurt in a moment. I'll tell you all about it and more of Donald Trump's announcements here about his new cabinet, which is forming very rapidly, by the way, certainly compared to the first Trump administration. We'll get to that in just a moment. It's 5:44.
From the Afghanistan pullout, which was an extreme debacle for which no one was held accountable. We've had spy balloons flying over the United States. We built a $300 million pier as a public relations stunt, which wound up killing an American service member. I'd say I've had just about enough of the so-called insiders running the Defense Department. I think we ought to give Pete Hegseth a chance, because he's got two insiders. All the criticism of him is that he's not the expected Washington pick. And I'm just saying to you that the American people just voted against the expected Washington pick. So he's got 20 years in service, Afghanistan, Iraq, 2 Bronze Stars, Princeton, Harvard. Yeah, he's on TV, but so are the rest of us.
By the way, that list you just gave,
I think he ought
that
to
list
be
you just gave is really.
Scott Jennings last night on CNN debating with, by the way, again, typical, the smug Carl Bernstein of Watergate. Has he done anything since Watergate?
No.
And, so there's Carl Bernstein apparently with this smug look on his face. Well, he's not qualified. That's the problem. We've been trying to impress the Carl Bernsteins of the world with secretaries of defense. I'm with Jennings on all of that. Let's give the guy a chance. Again, outside the box, absolutely. But we wanted
How
different.
could it be any worse
Yes.
than what the Biden administration has done to this country and this military?
Now,
my God.
You mentioned Kurt Schlichter. And the Wall Street Journal yesterday announced that the Trump transition team has a draft of an executive order that would set up what they're calling a warrior board of retired generals and non-commissioned officers. I would just ask them to include full bird colonels so that Schlichter can get in there because he never got the star. Given this board the power to review 3- and 4-star officers and to recommend anyone, quote, lacking in requisite leadership qualities, according to the document. If signed by Trump once he takes office, it would allow the quick removal of generals and admirals and purge the ranks of those the future commander-in-chief takes issue with for whatever reason. That, coupled with an outsider as the Secretary of Defense, could actually affect the kind of change at the Pentagon. We interviewed Mike Waltz, the new National Security Advisor. We've interviewed multiple people with military backgrounds who have all decried where the Pentagon has gone. And we said, how quickly can this change? How quickly can we actually affect some sort of reforms at the Pentagon? And they all said, well, you got to bring in some outsiders and you got to clean the house of some of these flag officers who have created their fiefdoms and don't do anything. This is it. So this warrior board, that's where Kurt Schlichter needs to be.
Absolutely.
That would be fantastic. You thought I was kidding when I said I had a job.
I
for
did.
Kurt.
I did.
I would love him to do that.
Perfect.
Our other selections yesterday that we got to talk about, the new ambassador to Israel, Governor Mike Huckabee. I love this beyond belief. It's wonderful.
It really is.
What a clear message that is sent to the people of Israel and to the entire Middle East about this new administration and our devotion. There's no ambiguity here. There's no, it's a gray area. No, it's very clear who the good guys are. We're on the side of the good guys. And I love the fact that he is a Baptist minister.
I know.
It sends the message to the Jewish people in this country and to Israel that this is not a Jewish issue. This transcends that faith. We all have this abiding faith, and that faith connects us to this nation. And I honestly
I'm getting welled up just thinking about it. It is really wonderful.
Well, you know who else got welled up? The governor of Arkansas, the daughter of the new ambassador to Israel.
My dad was just nominated as President Trump's ambassador to Israel. I had the chance to go to Israel for the very first time with my dad when I was 11 years old, and it literally changed my life. There's no greater supporter and nobody that has a greater understanding of our two nations' unbreakable bond. And there is probably a little bit of bias, but there's no one who will do a better job in this role. Congratulations, Dad. We're all very proud of you.
It was very exciting. You could hear her voice breaking. It's very cool. Very cool. And these are good people. And I like it when good things happen to good people. Meanwhile, John Ratcliffe has been officially announced as the director of the CIA. You'll remember when he was Congressman Ratcliffe, he squared off with Peter Strzok, the FBI employee who undermined the entire Trump administration, the text messages back and forth to his lover about how they had an insurance policy against Trump becoming president.
The approximately 50,000 text messages that I've seen with your personal beliefs like F Trump, stop Trump, impeach Trump, go ahead and confirm on the record that none of that occurred on an official FBI device or on official FBI time. Go ahead and do that.
Sir, no, they did. Many of them did.
Oh, they did.
Okay, so 50,000, sir.
So really, no, I'll give you a chance at the end. So what you really meant to say was that when you said you never crossed that bright, inviolable line, what you meant to say was, except for 50,000 times, except for hundreds of times a day where I went back and forth, expressing my personal opinions about effing Trump and stopping Trump and impeaching Trump on official FBI phones, on official FBI time. Other than that, you never cross that line.
I need Congressman Ratcliffe now to take that energy and attitude into his new job at Langley as Director Ratcliffe. He also was congratulated across the board by former National Security Advisor Robert O'Brien and the aforementioned Ambassador Rick Grinnell. They love Ratcliffe in this position, so that's a very good thing, too.
Yeah, it's very exciting. And how different is this, Larry, from the last Trump administration.
Yeah.
Where there was, I feel like people are lining up. There is serious competition for these positions.
One last item here, back to Pete Hegseth, because I keep hearing from people that he's not qualified for the job. Okay, I want everyone to just put that in perspective. The same people who are saying Pete Hegseth is unqualified to be Secretary of Defense thought it was just fine to put Pete Buttigieg in charge of our transportation infrastructure in this country, and they thought it was a great idea to make Kamala Harris the commander-in-chief, not the Secretary of Defense, the commander-in-chief of our armed forces. If you think Kamala Harris was qualified to be commander-in-chief, but you don't think Pete Hegseth is qualified to be Secretary of Defense, you need your head examined.